Brian Schreiber, President and CEO of the JCC of Greater Pittsburgh. How are you doing?
Rabbi, thank you for asking. I think I'm doing as well as anybody is doing. It's surreal, as we've talked about. Never quite experienced something quite like this before. And you find your spots, you have your good moments and your rough moments, and you count your blessings for the things that you have and the times that you can share.
Yeah, this has seriously disrupted so much of life, not only individuals, but also organizations. So tell me a little bit more about what's happening at the JCC, what's happening and what isn't right now.
So very much a mixed bag. The business model, which is a very fee-for-service, self-sufficient agency, works extremely well for probably anything but a pandemic. So in that regard, being part of a forced closure has been very, very challenging. Our life-sustaining services are moving forward. We are, at least in the city, we are a county senior center. So we have a congregate meal program that's merged into a grab and go. Our Age Well services are continuing virtually. So we're doing well checks on seniors. We've moved to a fair bit of online content. I know a lot of congregations have as well. And I think that's going fairly well, recognizing that all organizations have had to pivot quickly. And we were not what I would call a virtual organization up until that point. And we've tried to add life-sustaining services where we could. So we have been very, very active at a point where there have been almost no public blood drives. We've been holding blood drives both in our Squirrel Hill and South Hills facilities. I was out in South Hills last Friday. And they were quite busy. They're doing it only by appointment only, but it feels really good to do anything that's going to contribute to the well-being of Allegheny County citizens. And for us, an agency that's in motion 7 days a week, 362 days a year, something to that degree, having our facilities lie dormant is just not a comfortable place. So anytime we can do something that contributes to the public well-being and ties into Jewish values feels good.
And particularly for an organization that does that so incredibly well, being in the business of helping others, not only with their physical health through your exercise facilities, but through so many of your initiatives, including the Center for Loving Kindness. I'm curious if you would just say a little bit more about this relatively new initiative, as well as what it's up to in the current time.
Thank you. So Center for Loving Kindness was created in the end of 2016, really in some ways just to respond to the concept of neighbor and good civic values, and a sense that the Jewish community always thrived in healthy, vibrant democracies. And we saw a fair bit of civil disengagement and the inability of people to actually have civil and civic conversations. And we really felt like it was important to go back to two biblical values: love your neighbor as yourself and don't stand idly by while your neighbor bleeds. It was founded by our Senior Director of Jewish Life, Rabbi Ron Simons, who's also a wonderful educator in his own right. And we began building a clergy network, an interfaith network, and ultimately a populace to begin to think about contemporary issues of the day that would be presented in nonpartisan fashion, but an opportunity to create civic dialogue about issues that really matter to us. And its content, while we can't do live programming right now at the JCC, its programming has also moved into an online virtual format. So we did 3 interfaith seders with 2 for Seder, which was something that was founded by the daughter-in-law of Joyce Feinberg, by Morny Feinberg, in memory of her mother-in-law who was killed at Tree of Life, and a way to bridge divides. And right now we're doing what we would call a conversation series. And right now I know that Rabbi Simons was interviewing Christy Troutman from the FISA Foundation, talking about a real concern around domestic violence. That's an issue we've been involved in for a number of years, and real concern that while the number of PFAs and things are going down, people believe that it's because people don't have a safe place to actually go. So we're trying to build awareness. So I think that platform is continuing, and we look forward to a point where we can do that both live as well as virtually.
It seems so important in this world right now as we are gearing up for another election cycle that promises to be one of the more contentious in American histories, if not the most, particularly in a swing state like Western PA currently is.
So I agree, and what the JCC's role has been is to be that town square. So for those, particularly in the South Hills, will know that we've hosted a number of town hall conversations with political candidates. Again, we won't endorse a candidate, but we do like to try to present opportunities and encourage civic dialogue, civic participation, and we definitely see ourselves as playing a large role in that in both branches. And throughout our community, and areas of interest into the Jewish community. So issues like immigration, issues like domestic violence, and other things that we think really have relevance, we want to make sure we bring to the public square.
Wonderful. You know, this is a dark time for nonprofit organizations and Jewish communal organizations as we're looking at financial sustainability issues of viability in this new crisis. What steps have the JCC taken? What do you see on the horizon?
So as some of you may have read, it was in the Jewish Chronicle last week. So we were in an incredibly healthy position at the beginning of March. We had actually taken out a fair bit of debt in the late 90s. And it took us about 23 years to pay off that debt. We made our last debt payment on March the 2nd. Pretty healthy balance sheet. Again, of our $25 million operating budget, about 18 million is program fee driven, either through membership or program fees. That's now all been frozen. So needless to say, pretty challenging. We had to furlough a significant portion of our full-time staff or reduce their hours for some of our full-time staff. And of our part-time staff, we just simply can't schedule them. We did compensate them for a number of weeks and are not in the ability to continue to do that. What we did do for all of our full-time staff who receive health benefits is we maintain a commitment to that through the end of June, which is when our contract with our health provider expires, because it was critical that those people maintain their health benefits. So it's hard. We don't know what the date of reopening is. We don't know what that staging is going to be. I don't work for the CDC. Obviously, we're going to continue to comply with guidance or directives from our civic leaders, from our elected leaders, from the Allegheny County Public Health, Public Health Department, and see what that means. It's important to try to resume some level of normalcy as soon as we can, but we have to do that as safely as we can. And depending on what that date is reopening, and we have 3 or 4 different models as early as June 1st, all the way into September 1st, it gets more challenging if there's not a summer season. We're still hopeful that we can do a safe and healthy camp, both day and resident. And if we go all the way to September, that's going to be even tougher. And then we don't know what life looks like after there. So we have to begin to build some models of people slowly getting back to some degree of normalcy. And of course, the increased costs of trying to do that in as safe an environment as possible. So those are things that we think are going to be part of our reality over the next 6, 12, maybe 18 months.
It is a long time horizon, and it's something that synagogues and certainly Temple Emmanuel is wrestling with as well. How do we, right, with the preeminent value on preserving public health, but also a desire among everyone, myself included, to get back in with the people that we want to be around, want to be serving and creating community with as soon as possible. What's that going to look like? And it's pretty uncertain right now.
And I'd say, look, the online content, I think, has been terrific. And I've seen it in so many different venues. It can never replace real life contact. And the Jewish community is built on both individual responsibility and individual values, but in a communal environment. And communities, our middle name, congregations are all built around community. And I'm sure for your members, and I'm sure for those that utilize the JCC and other institutions, not being part of community leaves a very deep void for people. And it's something that we hope we can go back to as safely as possible, but we have to get back to a deeper human connection. It's as much a part of our physical being as our physical health.
Absolutely. I've been joking that I spent the first 10 years of my rabbinate telling people to disconnect to find community. And now I've got to do an about face and say the only way to do it is online. And there are times where it is certainly a poor substitute for a hug. There's no doubt about it.
On the flip, and I'll give you one flip side, because you have to look at the bright side. We knew that the Seders this year would be very, very challenging. And I, to be perfectly honest, between all the things going on at the JCC, and it's been incredibly busy. I've never been on so many Zoom calls in my life. They go from early morning to late at night. And we began thinking about how to curate the right kind of Seder experience for people of different faith traditions, to family members that were Shomer Shabbos. I mean, it was the whole gamut. And we spent time curating and finding meaning, and wound up with a Seder with 30 people, from 5 different states, from the heart of Manhattan all the way down to Florida. And it became a very meaningful, intimate, personal experience. And the people that struggled with it the most were those who at this point are living alone and are socially isolated. And it made me very thankful that my immediate family was with us, and that we were able to see grandparents and cousins and aunts and provide some joy and meaning in their lives.
It makes a big difference. One of the things that I suspect isn't unique to Jewish professionals, but that we're all feeling, is that somehow closing our physical buildings means working harder than ever before. It doesn't seem right, does it?
I never imagined that it would be busy. And I'd say maybe in the second or third week into this, my kids, and obviously I have been mostly working from home, and my kids looked at me and said, "We see you more. You work so many hours at the JCC, and we see more of you when you come home than we're seeing you here." And it made me take a step back and just to try to find a moment or two to just to have a socially distanced catch with my son, or take a walk with my daughter. I mean, it was just becoming overwhelming, and we realized that this is we were running at a sprinter's pace, and we had to move it to a 5K. Ultimately, I think it's going to be a marathon, but I'll do the 5K pace right now.
No, I think that you are absolutely right. And it's an important message for everyone to hear, that self-care is so vitally important. I was talking with Lynn Lebowitz, a therapist, as well as somebody very focused on mind and body. And she said, social media gives us this false impression that we're supposed to be writing the next great novel or having perfectly manicured gardens. And we're living through a trauma. And that's not a fair expectation to put on ourselves or on those we love.
And look, I'm part of I'm still continuing my engagement with our national association. So I'm on daily, if not twice daily calls. And to listen to the trauma they're going through. If people were living in Manhattan, they had the sounds of ambulances. There'd be no traffic on the roads, which is unbelievable for Manhattan, with ambulances all during the day or night. And that really creates incredible anxiety. So I do take an early morning walk, socially distanced, and walk around the neighborhood and get my legs moving. And I'm, what do we say? We do our Modeh Ani prayer, about thankful for the sun to rise. And it gives me some stock. Every sunrise I see, nice weather or bad weather, I'm grateful that the day began. I'm grateful that I can take my walk. I want to take stock on it. And then I'll begin to address life's challenges, which are many.
And fortunately, too many. Well, I'm grateful for your time and for the work that you are doing, not only in looking out for others in this community, but for the health of the entire Pittsburgh Jewish community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. And as always, we look forward to more collaborations and more conversations and more work together in the future. I appreciate it.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.